National Education Policy 2020, this document took long time to come and was much awaited, but now it has come. It's been framed by the educationists. It's now duty of the real heroes, those who are the knowledge warriors, that you have to bring and implement it into the schools very effectively. First of all, if I'm talking about the vision of the policy, it's very clearly mentioned that all of us, those who are teaching in the schools in the country, the main focus of the policy will remain on the ethos and then respect for the country, then developing the citizens locally and then making them ready for the global education. So the main vision of the policy is to develop the educationists deeply rooted in the Indian ethos, which has a capacity or capability to provide the high quality education to the global world, we can say, and they are able to compete in the global world. The curriculum and the pedagogy, the vision of the policy says that it must develop a sense of respect towards the fundamental duties, Constitution of India, and they must have deep bond with the country. Country first should be the motto of every citizen. This is developed in such a way by keeping the vision that we have to develop a sense of pride and respect for the country and be responsible for human rights, sustainable development, and global well-being, thereby reflecting the truly global citizen. So this vision can be attained if we all, the teachers, those who are working in the classrooms, can put right efforts to develop the students of tomorrow. The key principles of this policy to keep this vision in front are very, very important, are very core also. The respect for the diversity and the local context. Many times when we are talking about the new education policy, the National Education Policy 2020, we are talking that this time we are going to switch over with the diversity, and with respect to diversity, we shall be keeping the local context in view. So all the curriculum, the pedagogy, the policy, everything will be developed by keeping only one thing in mind, that is the local context. Equity and inclusion will be given a weightage. Inclusion, whether it is gender-wise, whether it is a socio-economic inclusion, whether it is caste, color, creed, everything has to be included. So equity and inclusion has to be very important cornerstone for all educational decisions. So whenever we are deciding about that we have to go for, then it has to be very importantly taken that we have to keep the inclusion of everybody in view. And when we are talking about this particular principles, that community participation is to be increased, and this community participation will be encouragement and facilitation of the philanthropic and private and community participation, which has to be increased. This will be increased to enhance the education and support education. Use of the technology as per the National Education Policy 2020, in the teaching, the use of the technology has to be enhanced. It has to have the major role. And we have to put emphasis on the conceptual understanding rather than rote learning. Something is to be done that we have to take out the rote learning system from the teaching, learning, and assessment system. So more emphasis will be remaining on the conceptual understanding. Unique capabilities which are there within the students, whether they are suffering with some disability or whether they are having some unique capabilities within them, they are having some talent, teachers are to be trained in such a way that they are able to recognize, identify all these capabilities, and right in the foundational stage they are finding it, and then after that they are developing the students in that way. Critical thinking and creativity. Critical thinking and creativity is to be kept at a very priority is to be given to this, and to encourage the logical decision making and innovations. This is to be kept in mind. And yes, if we are having these principles, then after that we have to be continuously in touch with that the process and procedure we are following in the curriculum and the pedagogical processes. This has to be reviewed regularly, and this will be based on the sustained research and regular assessment by the educational experts. More emphasis are there in transforming the curriculum and pedagogical structure. Many of you must have come to know that the structure of the curriculum and the pedagogy which is coming to the schools now onwards is something different than the previous one. So the fundamental stage, it is going to be of the 5 years. We'll be having the multi-level play activity-based teaching and learning. Preparatory stage, which is of 3 years, will be having play, discovery, and activity-based and interactive classroom learning. Then the middle stage will be having the experiential learning, will be again of the 3 years in the science, mathematics, art, social science, and the humanities. And yes, the secondary stage is going to be of the 4 years, and greater critical thinking, multidisciplinary study, flexibility in the student subjects, and greater choices will be there for the student for the subjects. So in nutshell, the new pedagogical and the curricular structure is going to be of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Means 3 years will be in the preschool and 12 years are supposed to be in the main school. If you're understanding it in comparison to the previous system, previous curriculum, then it is little bit different than that. Earlier we were talking about 10 plus 2 from 6 years to 16 years and 16 to 18 years. But now we are talking something differently. We're talking about 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That is foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary stage. So this is the way we are going in the new curricular and the pedagogical structure according to the National Education Policy. I told you that we have to come out of the rote learning system. For that, the shift is supposed to be there to competency-based teaching, learning, and assessment. If this shift has to be there, then how it will be coming into action? We have to promote the critical and creative thinking, which is aligned to the 21st century in the classroom. We have to go for shifting of the traditional assessments to the competency-focused assessments, then track the students' progress comprehensively and frequently, and design the tools and the resources to acquire the learning outcomes. And this can be done. This can be done if we have to do this, we have to reduce some burden. So reducing the curriculum to the core essentials to minimize the rote learning, then only we can achieve. And we can achieve this competency-based teaching, learning, assessment by one more thing which we have started doing in our CBSE schools, that is promoting short integrated, sport integrated, art integrated learning in the classroom for the holistic development also. If I'm talking about some of the salient features of the different stages which are there, foundational, preparatory, middle, and the secondary, then you will be apprised about all these areas more deeply. Means in the foundational stage, we are having play activity-based learning only. Pedagogy of the early childhood and care education is to be taken into this particular area. There will be focus on the good behavior, courtesy, ethics, personal and public hygiene, cleanliness. This has to be developed in the little ones. Then there will be focus on the teamwork and the cooperation that has to be developed in the students when they are in the foundational stage. And then we are moving further and we're talking about the preparatory stage. There we have to be a little bit systematically and gradually. Here the transition is there, will be taking place from the play-based learning to more formal classroom learning. And yes, of course, the interactive teaching learning process will be starting from the preparatory stage, and there will be introduction of the subjects which will be including physical education, art, languages, science, and mathematics also. And emphasis will be on reading, writing, and speaking. So this reading, writing, speaking is to be developed in the preparatory stage very clearly. When we are taking them to the middle stage, then this will be subject-oriented pedagogical and curricular methodology. And yes, of course, the subject teachers for learning and the more abstract and concepts in each subject that will be happening there in the science, mathematics, arts, social science, and the humanities. And when we are going to the high school, that is the secondary stage of the curriculum, then every year for this particular 4-year program will be the multidisciplinary program of the studies. Greater depth, greater critical thinking, greater attention to life aspirations will be there. Greater flexibility will be there for the students' choices, and exposure to more subjects and enable greater flexibility to the students, along with more frequent assessment of the modules will be there. So these are the features of the different stages of the education in the NEP. When we're talking about the early childhood care and education, in this, the foundational learning stage, we have to achieve something. And the goals are very clear in this early childhood care and education program. Goals are for ensuring that all the children entering the grade 1 after the school are ready by are school ready by 2030. Now they are supposed to be school ready by 2030. We are having a span of time. We have to go for this process. But how to do it? They should be able to attain the optimal outcome in the domain of the physical and motor development, cognitive development, socio-emotional development, cultural development, and fundamental the development of the communication and the early languages in the literacy and numeracy. So this is possible that when we are talking about the early childhood care and education and the pedagogy development, this is possible when we are developing a cadre of the teachers. So to prepare the initial cadre of the high quality childhood care education teachers, then we have to plan to introduce 6 months certificate program. We have to plan 1 year diploma program, which will be covering early literacy, numeracy, and other relevant aspects of the ECE. Minimum qualification will be 10+2 and above can be considered. Then this introduction of the preparatory class before the class 1 for the children of age 5 years, the learning shall be based on the play-based learning with a focus on developing few things within the children. That is, they should be able to read and comprehend. They should be able to write. They should be able to perform the basic mathematical operations. And yes, we have to keep the basic skills within the children, which they have to learn when they are into the early childhood care and education. When we're talking about the attainment of something that is taken on the mission mode in this national education policy, the attainment of the fundamental literacy and numeracy by grade 3 means more task is there with the foundational area, and we have to attain the numeracy and literacy by grade 3. So for that, we are having different plans. That universal acquisition of the foundational learning skills will be developed. National mission on the foundational literacy and numeracy will be taken by this national education policy. National book promotion policy will be formulated and public and school libraries will be expanded. Then focus will be there on early reading, writing, and the mathematics skills. Yes, 3 months play-based school preparation module will be there for the grade 1 students also. National repository, high quality teaching and the learning resources on Diksha portal will be uploaded. Means this portal is going to be rich and has to be made rich in the further. Libraries are to be strengthened. School libraries, including digital libraries, these are to be leveraged for everybody. So these are the part of the mission, and this is only for attaining literacy and numeracy by grade 3 on the mission mode only. The major problem in the country is the dropout rate. And this dropout rate, and to bring the children back to school and prevent the children dropping out, this has to be done by having very good teachers in the school, having very good infrastructure in the school, and having the universal participation in the school by careful tracking of the school. And yes, we have to be careful that all the enrolled students are attending school or not. And we have to have some suitable opportunities to catch up and re-enter the students in the school if they are leaving the school due to any reason. Community participation is to be increased in terms of the expertise and the infrastructural support so that students are not dropping out from the school. And scope of the school education will be broadened. This will be broadened in the way, in the shape of the open and distance learning opportunities will be there. Programs will be offered by the NIUS, and yes, state open schools will be expanded and strengthened in the future to give education to everybody. In addition to this, there are some highlights on the pedagogical structure, that what kind of pedagogical structure we are going to have and what will be the major focus on that. I told you already that the competency-based education has to be there. The competency-based education means modules on preparation on the implementation of the pedagogical plans based on the competency and outcome-based educational education for the school leaders will be there. Integrated subjects will be introduced, just like ICT integrated, then art integrated, then sport integrated. These subjects are to be integrated with the major subjects. Development of the scientific temperament will be continuing, but at the same time, we have to keep some constitutional values such as patriotism, sacrifice, non-violence, truth, honesty, and peace, etc. There will be no silos among the subjects and the learnings. Means no hard separation will be there in the academic and vocational, cultural, curricular and extracurricular and curricular activities, science and humanities. Means sports, art and academics will be merged all together. And there will be the emphasis on the digital literacy. So many contemporary subjects will be introduced, as coding has been introduced, artificial intelligence has already been introduced. So this digital literacy is to be promoted more. Promotion will be there for the multilingual teaching also. So multilingual teaching will be promoted by giving the authorities to the other states to hire the teachers from the different state or adjoining states also for the different language teaching also. We all teachers have to do something, that we have to encourage the 21st century skills in the classroom, and these 21st century skills like digital literacy, problem solving, then communication, then critical thinking, then creativity, health and fitness, then social responsibility, ethics, scientific temperament, collaboration. This has to be there, but we have to keep the Indian values, ethos within us. So we have to encourage the 21st century skills in the classroom for the students' betterment. We have to introduce the contemporary subjects, as I told you, and these contemporary subjects will be there in the school education now, like artificial intelligence already has been introduced, holistic health, data science will be coming to the school, organic living, then design thinking and machine learning. These all contemporary subjects are supposed to be there in the schools for the school children. Year-long course will be taken in the 6th to 8th grades, and this will remain a special year-long course which will be having more focus on survey and hands-on experiences of the sampling of important vocational crafts such as carpentry, electric work, metal work, gardening, pottery making, etc. And this will be customized according to the state and local communities' needs. So mapping will be done according to the local context only. In this particular year-long process from the classes, in the classes 6 to 8, mathematics and computational thinking is supposed to be developed more. Increased emphasis will be throughout the school years, starting with the foundational stage only. Use of the variety of the innovative methods, including regular use of the puzzles and games that make the mathematical thinking more enjoyable and engaging, and introduction of the activities involving coding in the middle stage. These will be coming in the year-long processes. Emphasis will be on the vocational education also, and this vocational education is to enhance. You must have heard that in the coming years, 10-day bagless period during 6 to 8 for the students to intern with local vocational experts such as carpenters, gardeners, potters, artists. We have to have their help, and then they will be interacting with the students, will be training them in this area when we are having bagless day. Internship opportunities will be there to learn the vocational subjects throughout the grades from 6 to 12. Vocational courses through online mode will be taught to the students, and periodic exposure will be to the activities outside the school through the through the different modes will be taken, like meeting local artists and the craftsmen. Vocational courses will be taken, and these can be offered on the open and distance learning mode also, but entire scenario is going to be created that by 2025 at least 50% of the learners shall have exposure to the vocational education. So this is the reason that much emphasis is being put on the vocational courses. One more thing which has come up in wonderful manner in this NEP, that is knowledge of India is to be enhanced in the school students. And this will be done that we have to take the knowledge from the ancient India. We have to take account that how it is contributing to the modern India and its success, and the challenges will be considered and will be taught. India's future aspirations with regard to the education, health, and environment is to be taken into consideration. Indian knowledge systems, including tribal knowledge and indigenous and traditional ways of learning, and the specific courses in the tribal ethno-medicinal practices, forest management, traditional organic crop cultivation, natural farming, etc. will be made available for the students. And yes, an engaging course on the Indian knowledge systems in the secondary school as an elective subject will be introduced. Competitions in the schools for learning various topics and the subjects through fun and indigenous games will be taken into consideration. Video documentaries on the inspirational memories of India will be taken, like ancient and the moderns, and this will be included into the science curriculum. Students will be visiting different states as a part of the cultural exchange program, as it is going to be promoted from the coming years. Constitutional values will be developed in the students, and experts from the Indian Constitution will also be considered essential reading for all the students. Knowledge of the critical issues which are being faced at the local communities, state, and the country and the world, this will be taught, and this knowledge of country will be enhanced in the school curriculum. If I'm talking further, then we have to take care of the health and education also. This health and education will be given proper emphasis and basic training in the health, including preventive health, then mental health and well-being, nutrition, the personal and public hygiene and the first aid, and detrimental and damaging effects of the alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. This has to be taught, and students are to be trained into this area. When we are talking about the leveraging the power of the multilingualism and the language learning, we have to be careful, as we are talking that the children whose primary language is not the language of instruction in the school are more likely to drop out of the school and fail in the early grades. So this is the problem. To get rid of this problem, mother tongue is supposed to be the medium of instruction in the schools wherever possible until at least grade 5, and preferably till at least grade 8 it will be there. And the language of India, as we have to make it clear to the students, we are having the diversity. So language of India will be a project taken by the school students, and it will be to familiarize with the diversity of the languages in the country also. When we're talking about the national curriculum framework, which is pending since long time, we are waiting since 2005, then NHCF 2005, which is being followed by the schools. Now this NCF is coming, and this NCF is coming in the different parts. This will be NCF, school education, textbooks, teacher education, etc. And this document is in the getting shaped and is being undertaken by the NCERT. This is based on the principle of the National Education Policy 2020 and will be made available in all the regional languages. All the textbooks shall aim to contain the essential core material deemed important on the national level, but at the same time contain any desired nuances and the supplementary material as per local context and the needs also. Wherever possible, schools and the teachers will also have the choices in the textbooks they employ from among a set of the textbooks that contain the requisite national and local material also. So this NCF school education is a document which will be available soon. As I've spoken in the beginning, we are supposed to transform the assessment for the student development. So this transformation is having some aims. The aims of the assessment are that we have to get shifted from the rote learning, rote memorization skills to formative and is more competency based. We have to promote the learning and the development of the students, and we have the tests. We have the tests of the higher order skills such as analysis, critical thinking, and the conceptual clarity. Assessment for the learning, optimize learning and development of all the students. This will be the underlying principle of assessment at all the levels of the education. So when we are talking about the transformation of the assessment, at the same time, we are talking about the tracking of the students' progress across the school years also. So now onwards, all the students will be taking the examination in the grade 3, grade 5, and grade 8. And these examinations will be focusing more on the test core concepts and move away from the rote learning. Tests will be conducted by all government and private schools. These will be the features of the assessment. Student data is supposed to be anonymized, and yes, use of the data for the continuous monitoring and improvement will be there. And here is the system of the examination from the 22-23 onwards, which is focusing on the NEP 2020. The exams will be conducted at grade 3, grade 5, grade 8, grade 10, and grade 12. And yes, the achievement of the basic learning outcomes, which will be through the assessment of the core concepts and the knowledge from the national and the local curricula, along with the relevant higher order skills and application of the knowledge in the real life situations rather than rote memorization. So this is the way we are going to transform the assessments and the tracking of the students' progress across the school years. Now, if I'm talking about the assessment, then we have to talk about the report cards to assess the holistic development of each child. For that, we have to plan 360-degree holistic report cards. And to create the 360-degree holistic report cards, these report cards, progress cards will form an important link between home and the school and will be accompanied by the parent-teacher meetings in order to actively involve the parents in their children's holistic education and development. Results of the school examination are to be taken care, and this will be used only for developmental purpose of the school education, will be for public disclosure by the schools of their overall student outcome, and anonymized student outcome will be counted, and for the continuous monitoring and improvement of the schooling system. And the report card will be something like this. Means we can see the progress in the project-based and inquiry-based learning from the report card. In the report card, we can see the progress in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. And in this, we can see the quizzes, role plays, group work, portfolio, and long is the list. Then interactive questionnaires for the parents, teachers, and the students. Self-assessment and peer assessment will be there in the report card, and the teacher assessment will also include it. So CBSE is working on this, and this redesigning of the report cards and the innovative report cards can also be developed by the teachers also. There are some guidelines related to the assessment in which you will be having something new for all the students and teachers, and these guidelines will be prepared by NCERT in consultation with the major stakeholders such as boards of the assessment, BOAs, National Assessment Center for the School Education, NACSE, etc. And the transformation of the assessment system will be implemented from the session 22-23, and this will be aligned with the national curriculum framework for the school education, which will be coming in this academic session only. So these guidelines which are there for the assessment are to be monitored by the National Assessment Center for the School Education. There are some roles and responsibilities of the National Assessment Center for the School Education, and this center will advise the school boards and what it will be advising regarding new assessment patterns and the latest researches which are happening and which will be happening. This will be advising for promoting the collaborations between the school boards and to become an instrument for sharing of best practices between the school boards, about shifting their assessment patterns towards meeting the skill requirements of the 21st century and in coincidence with the stated objectives of this policy. So this National Assessment Center for the School Education is going to play a major role in the assessment system. For you, all the teachers, those who are teachers and those who will be teachers, National Education Policy is talking louder. The teachers and the teacher education will be in the different formats in the country. 4 years integrated B.Ed program. This will be considered as the minimum degree qualification for teaching that includes student teaching at local schools. By 2030 it has to be achieved. There will be 2-year B.Ed program for the applicants with an existing bachelor's degree in other specialized subjects. And there will be 1-year degree program for the B.Ed, and this will be for those who has completed the equivalent of the 4 years multidisciplinary bachelor's degree or have obtained a master's degree in the specialty also. So this will be the structure for the B.Ed for the teachers, and it will be including different kind of teaching. All the B.Ed programs will include training in time-tested techniques in pedagogy, multi-level teaching and evaluation, teaching children with the disabilities, teaching children with the special interests or talents, and use of the educational technology and learner-centered and collaborative learning. So all these things, all these topics, subjects will be focused more when they are taking training for the B.Ed. The teachers and the teacher education is talking louder in the NEP as national professional standards for the teachers will be developed by 2022. These NPST will be helping the teacher in the different manners. It's not like that professional standards are set now, will be remaining as it is, but the professional standards will be reviewed and revised in 2030 and thereafter every 10 years on the basis of the rigorous analysis of the efficacy of the system. Quality 4-year integrated B.Ed program will be there. Transparency in the transfers through the online computerized system will be for the government schools. Teacher eligibility tests will be strengthened in the states. Sharing of the teachers across the school will be strengthened through the cluster programs. School complexes can hire the local eminent persons, experts as the master instructors also. Technology-based comprehensive teacher requirement planning will be made, and teacher education will gradually be moved by 2030 into multidisciplinary colleges and universities also. And yes, the multidisciplinary higher education institutions which are offering 4-year in-class integrated B.Ed, this program to also provide blended and open distance learning mode for the teachers to teach the students, those who are into the remote areas. So a lot is being done for the teachers, and teachers are being helped at the every step. National education policy aims to support and nurture the teachers through all the phases of their tenure. All the phases of the tenure, that is starting right from the preparation to become a teacher for entrance examination, recruitment, when their deployment is being done or they are being transferred from one place to another place, when they are in the classroom or the professional development. At every step, National Education Policy says that teacher will be helped. And there will be continuous professional development for improving the standards of the teacher and the education in the school. And these Continuous professional development programs which will be there for the teachers will be of 50 hours every year, driven by their own interest. And these programs will be on the different topics which are very, very important. Teacher education to include aspects of supporting gifted children. Teachers will be trained for the training teachers to be effective online educator. Workshops and training programs for development of school leaders and the principals. 21st century teaching, learning and assessment will be at the heart of the teacher training programs. And yes, Anganwadi workers, the teachers who are in the preschool will be trained in the early literacy, numeracy and other relevant aspects of early childhood care and education. Inclusion and equity will become a key aspect of the teacher education, and secondary specializations to be created for teaching kids with the disabilities. And yes, for the teachers development, a new and comprehensive national curriculum framework for the teacher education, it will be especially for the teacher education, will be coming in 2021. This will be formulated, and National Professional Teacher Standard (NPST) will be set for as a benchmark for expectations of the role of teachers, standards for the performance, appraisals, and inform the design of the pre-service education. So this continuous professional development will be there for the teacher for improving the standards of education. I told you that equity and inclusion will be an important cornerstone for all the decisions. So education is the single greatest tool for achieving the social justice and equality. National education policy seeks to bridge the gender and the social category gap in all the levels of the school education. It is rightly said that inclusive, good quality education is a foundation for dynamic and equitable societies. So we have to be very particular when we are talking about the equitable and inclusive education. And this focus on the socio-economically disadvantaged group will be there. Now these SEDGs will be looked properly, and these SEDGs will be formed and will be broadly categorized, and this categorization will be based on gender identities, like especially female and transgender individuals, socio-cultural identities. This can be scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBCs and the minorities. The geographical identities such as students from the villages, from the small towns and aspirational districts, we can say. Disabilities can be there, and this must include the learning disability also, and socio-economic conditions can also be taken into account for deciding SEDGs. And these socio-economic conditions can be different, such as migrant communities, low-income households, children in the vulnerable situations, victims of or children of the victims of trafficking, orphans, including the child beggars in the urban areas, and urban poor. So all these are to be taken into socio-economically disadvantaged groups, and these SEDs are to be monitored properly. A separate strategies will be formulated for focused attention for reducing each of the category wise gap in the school education. So this gap is to be reduced, and how to ensure the equitable and inclusive education, that is a major challenge for us now also. And this challenge is to be taken by all of us. Increased participation of the SEDGs in the schooling system will be strengthened. And government has to come up with a gender inclusion fund for the girl and transgenders. Free boarding facilities will be built. Inclusion and the equal participation of the children with the disabilities in the early childhood care and education, and the schooling system will also be accorded with the highest priority. Home-based education will be a choice for the children who are unable to go to school. Teachers must be helped in identifying such learning disabilities of at the early age and plan specifically for their mitigations. Urgent needs and the additional special educators for certain areas of the school education. Alternative forms of the schools which are there, which are very traditional, these will be encouraged to preserve their traditions or the alternative pedagogical styles. We are having so many schools which are there in the societies which are developing, and NGOs are working for teaching and grooming the students. So the students in such schools would be encouraged to appear for the state or other board examination and assessments by the National Testing Agency. Special attention will be given to reduce the disparities of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Opening of the NCC wings will be encouraged in the schools. Students will be sensitized through this new school culture and brought in by the teachers, trained social workers, and the counselors. Human values such as empathy, tolerance, human rights, gender equality, non-violence, citizenship, inclusion, and equity will be part of the curriculum, whether it is for the foundational, preparatory, middle, or the secondary education. This particular document is focusing on one more area, that NEP says that efficient resourcing and effective governance should be there through school complexes, through school clusters. Just like we are having hubs of learning, we are having sahodyas. These clusters and complexes must be strengthened to ensure adequate number of the counselors, trained social workers, and teachers for teaching all the subjects, including art, music, science, sports, languages, vocational subjects, etc. This can be on the sharing basis or otherwise also. And this, again, we have to ensure the adequate resources on sharing basis or otherwise, such as library, science labs, computer labs, skill labs, playgrounds, sports equipments, and the facilities, etc. To ensure the sense of community is built to overcome the isolation of the teachers, students, and the schools through joint professional development programs, sharing of the teaching learning content, joint content development, holding joint activities such as art and science exhibitions, sports meets, quizzes and debates and fairs. Then cooperation and support across the schools for education of the children with the disabilities, and improved governance of the schooling system by developing all the finer decisions to principals, teachers, and other stakeholders within each group of the schools. So this is to be ensured when we are developing the complexes and clusters in smaller number of the groups. When we are talking about the NEP, when we are talking about the NEP document 2020, at the same time, CBSE has also started grooming, developing the schools in the better way. And CBSE has also taken some initiatives which include the most important part, that is the standard setting and accreditation for the school education. This standard setting and accreditation for the school education is taken very seriously by NEP 2020. For the standard setting of accreditation, what we have to do is a self-regulation and accreditation system will be instituted for all the stages of private, public, and philanthropic to ensure the compliance with the essential quality standards. The minimal set of the standard based on basic parameters: safety, security, infrastructure, number of teachers, financial probity, and the sound processes of the governance, which shall be followed by all the schools. States and UTs will be setting up an independent statewide body called State School Standard Authority. The State School Standard Authority, what it will be doing, the dimensions and the format of the disclosure will be decided by the State School Standard Authority in accordance with the global best practices. SCRT to develop a SQA. This SQA means School Quality Assessment and Accreditation Framework through wide consultations. Key features of the SQA for the CBSE schools are there, as SQA was already there in the CBSE, but it was put in off mode for some time. And a self-assessment tool for the schools to review their performance against predefined indicators and the benchmarks. Easily implementable, transparent and objective tool. This will be focused on the enhancement of the quality, recognition of excellence, promotion of the accountability, and benchmarking schools across a range of the descriptors or indicators of the assessment. And CBSE has developed a comprehensive framework termed as School Quality Assessment Assurance, SQA. The disclosure will be at the school level based on the proficiency of the school, and technical documents standards has been prepared by CBSE. E-portal for the schools is being prepared by CBSE, which will be piloted in the upcoming session 21-22 and will be finally rolled for all the schools of CBSE in the academic session 22-23. So this is the standard setting and accreditation for the school education. Transforming the assessment system. A pilot project will be done by CBSE in the beginning of the April or May 21, or as and when the schools will be reopening, and it will be implemented on larger scale in 22-23. An online system is also being developed for this by CBSE. As I told you that key stage assessment in the class 3, 5, 8, a pilot will be done for this in the selected schools in the next academic session 21-22. And the holistic report card for the CBSE schools are also being prepared by the CBSE. CBSE is also working on 500 competency-based test items for the classes 1 to 5 related to the measurement of each learning outcome stipulated by NCERT, and these are being prepared. Work is initiated on the development of the question bank for the competency-based items for the class 6 to 10 in the major subjects, and it will be available on the Diksha portal. Training of the paper setters is started and moderators are also being trained. This is going on to standardize the question paper, increasing higher order application oriented case-based questions from 10% to 60% to get rid of the rote learning and rote education memorization. CBSE has also set up a center for assessment, and it will prepare standards linked to the learning outcomes, assessment framework, item blueprints and item development guidelines. Digital assessment units is being set up by CBSE, and a manual on the assessment as for and off learning is also being prepared by CBSE. CBSE is having the initiatives for the capacity building of the teachers. This CBSE offers the generic as well as subject-specific teacher training program, and same will be aligned to cater to the need of the newly recruited teachers. Induction program will be initiated in the year 2022. CBSE policy is changed now for the in-service teachers. This has been modified to make the 50 hours mandatory CPD per year for teachers, increasing this from existing 35 hours. CBSE will prepare a small 10 minutes mock classroom demonstration, and this mock classroom demonstration will be for the good class practices for experimental, joyful learning, etc. And the board has introduced experiential learning, competency-based education, art and sports integration. So I was talking about the initiatives for the capacity building of the teachers, and these initiatives are being taken by the CBSE, and In this, something new which has been added, that CBSE will be preparing the small 10 minutes mock classrooms demonstration, a good class practice for the experiential joyful learning. The board has introduced experiential learning. We have started doing it in the schools, competency-based education, art and sport integrated education. All schools are mandated to follow the inclusive education to provide the conducive learning to the students. And board has also published 36 manuals to handhold the teachers and the trainings of the teachers on the newer pedagogies, classroom management, inclusive education, and the subjects. Using 32 training manuals developed by the CBSE are being conducted right now for all the teachers. Work is going on for developing 5 foundational and numeracy training modules which will be used for training the teachers in the online and blended mode. CBSE is doing a lot for the development of the teachers. Some curricular initiatives are taken by the CBSE, and these initiatives include art and sports integrated education, principals as a pedagogical leader, and preparation of the annual pedagogical plan. This document is about to come. Implementation of the experiential learning pedagogies like arts and sports integrated, storytelling and gaming integrated, mathematics and Hindi at the 2 levels. English and Sanskrit will also be introduced at 2 levels from the session 21-22. Introduction of the 9 vocational courses of 12 hours duration that has already been done by CBSE, and it has been started in those classes 6 to 8. There are some other initiatives which are ensuring the competency-based education in the schools, and for that CBSE has mandatorily added this adoption of the learning outcomes by the CBSE schools. Then creative and critical thinking practice test, informal assessments through the students' enrichment activities, and introduction of the case-based questions in the question paper design. More initiative for this is mandatory online training on the experiential learning and competency-based education is developed, and development of the resource material, handbook on the experiential learning, teachers resource for achieving learning outcomes term. So these are for ensuring the competency-based education in the schools. More is being done. Students enrichment activities. We are, as teachers, we all know that Aryabhatta Ganit challenge is there for the students. Heritage India quiz is there for the students. EBSB activities are there for the students. Then CBSE Science Challenge is there for the students. Science exhibition is being conducted by CBSE. Khelo India program is for the students by CBSE. Expression series is there, and then reading challenge is there for the students. These are the student enrichment activities which are already started by the CBSE for the students. Well, CBSE is doing a lot. CBSE has taken new initiatives supporting the schools at every step, every time. There are some expectations of this from the schools also. And these expectations are including focus on the essentials learning outcomes, core essentials learning outcomes, and focus on the foundational skills in the lower grades, and mapping the curriculum across the grades and the subjects with the defined LOs. Focus on the practical and application-based learning, experiential learning, and enhancing the creative and critical thinking skills of the students. Enable the teachers to design such experiential and application-based activities which enhance the creative and critical thinking skills and other desired skills among the students. Their stress on the importance of the foundational skill and literacy is expected by CBSE. Transform the teaching strategies or yes. So I was talking about the expectation from the school which CBSE is having. So this is something that is stress on the implementation of the foundational skills and the literacy and numeracy. For that, the teachers need to transform. So transforming the teaching strategies or adopting innovative teaching strategies to develop and strengthen and achieve these foundational skills by grade 3. So there will be focused on at an early age on reading, writing, and learning of the basic mathematical concepts. Then bringing the changes in the classroom teaching alignment with the NEP 2020. This is very important to define, adapt, adopt learning outcomes and link the assessment with the defined learning outcomes. We have to adopt the experiential learning pedagogies to achieve the defined learning outcomes. We have to integrate the subjects and technology to create a holistic learning experience for the students. We teachers need to integrate the component of the digital literacy, scientific temperament, and computational thinking, and plan the lessons grounded in the real life situations and plan to promote the multilingualism. We have to identify and nurture the gifted students and plan for the children with the special needs and the socially economically disadvantaged groups of the students also. Where we are being expected a lot, so we are also being CBSE is expecting more from us, that is bring the changes in the assessment patterns, adopt varied modes of the assessment, focus more on the assessment as and for the learning, align the assessment practices with the defined learning outcomes and focus on the achievement of the desired competencies in the students, carry out holistic 360-degree assessment of the student in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains, design, create multidimensional and holistic report card reflecting the uniqueness of each child in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains, plan and to track the learning of each child, remove the separation between the subjects and the discipline. Schools has to work on it to adopt the holistic educational approach by removing the hard separations between arts and sciences, curricular and co-curricular activities, and academic and vocational streams also. Vocational training to the students is to be given as mentioned in the National Education Policy. One bagless day can be planned for the hands-on learning of the vocational subjects and popularize and offer the vocational courses training to the students. These schools are also expected to enable the assess and retention. Enable assess and retention. So this is to track each child and ensure there is no dropout. Ensure the educational assess and retention of the SEDGs and help each child in continuing the education through Right to Education Act entitlements. Involve all the stakeholders in the child's learning process and we can say the journey of the parent, local, and administration. Enhance and enrich the student learning through innovative pedagogies. Create safe and conducive environment for learning and teaching. Maintain the inclusive and clean infrastructure. Monitor, track health status of the children through the periodic health checkups and self-audit on the school quality assurance and accreditation framework SQAAF. This is expected that schools will be disclosing all the financial, academic, and operational matters as expected from the schools by State School Standard Authority. Provide enabling the resources both to the students and the teachers. Ensure that all the students at all the levels of the school education are taught by passionate, motivated, highly qualified, professionally trained, and well-equipped teachers. Recruit qualified teachers as per NCTE regulations. And there is something which is again focused by CBSE, that is ensure the capacity building at all the levels. All the levels means the school management, heads, teachers, staff, parents, community volunteers, etc. Minimum 50 hours CPD per year is mandatory. Monitoring of the teachers, mentoring of the teachers, Nishtha is supposed to be compulsorily completed by all the teachers. Training regular teachers or to teaching some appropriate vocational subjects and training of the vocational teachers. And train the teachers in following areas. As you all are the teachers, you must get trained in these areas in getting identifying, recognizing, and nurturing the unique potential of every child. Curriculum and the pedagogy of the early childhood care and education. Use of the technology, platforms such as Swayam and Diksha, basic health indicators to look out for the for and monitoring the children, teaching the Indian languages, shift in the teaching learning from rote to the inquiry based critical thinking, cognitive learning and applied methods, assessment as the learning and assessment for learning, implementation of the holistic progress card, creation of the safe and secure learning environment in the school, and time tested as well as new pedagogies. So this is expected from the teachers, and now this engagement with the parents. So CBSE need this engagement of the parents community for the positive learning environment, and this is for inform the parents about the expected learning outcomes like portfolios, home assignments, etc., and sensitize the parents with the children with physical and learning disabilities. This has to be sensitized. The first generation learners has to be taken care. Make home visits if possible and if necessary. Arrange the workshop on the parenting and particularly on the exam related anxiety and other stress. Engage with the parents to deal with the substance abuse, sexual orientation and other adolescence issues. Constantly send information about the activities in the school and the child's progress. Send portfolios back to the parents for the review and the feedback. Inform the parents what kind of assistance the child needs at home for learning. Newsletters, emails, blogs, memos, etc. can be the regular features. Let the parents be the volunteers for FLN and the field visits like sports, art exhibitions, annual functions, school magazines, etc. Explore the lecture by the parent, specialists, a counselor may be there, the doctor, sports person, filmmaker, etc. Have the parent representatives for the PTMs sometimes, and involve the parents in the community outreach work undertaken by the schools. So this is what the CBSE is doing, what CBSE is expecting from all of us. So thank you all for listening me, and happy learning to all of you. Thank you so much to the CBSE training unit.
Thank you, Dr. Chandel. And it has been a comprehensive presentation explaining all aspects of school education. And we hope that our teachers would have been enriched. And I think we need series of such webinars to equip our teachers fully for that. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you once again. Thank you to all listeners.
Thank you, sir.